got to do it 3 times for this special edition. H. Lee Robinson, founder of American Sentinel, with one of the greatest Pitbull programs right now. The future of the American Pitbull Terrier, thinking outside of the box. So what's happening, Lee? How's your day going so far?
Doing good, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing amazing. The sun is shining. I feel different doing it in the daytime. I got to start doing it. I feel the sun is like shining.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay? I've got my earbuds on. I didn't have that on earlier.
I can hear you.
Good. Perfect. Glad to hear it. Yep. So how are you doing?
I'm doing amazing. Let me give you guys some context. We done a live last Wednesday, and Lee was talking about his program. I've started putting stuff on Instagram more, and we got a major responses on it. And like always, Lee, I don't know if Lee always been this way. Lee has sometimes he spits his truth, and he's on the island. A lot of people be against him, but it doesn't matter to Lee. He don't fold. He don't apologize. He just speak what he does, and we need more people like that. So I said, we might as well have live about it to talk about the different aspects. But go ahead, Lee.
Yeah. So also, I want to mention a couple of things. One, I was asked some questions that normally I have certain opinions on things that I might keep to myself, but I was asked some questions, and it kind of stirred up a little bit of chaos when I was asked about how do I compare my dogs to Tom Garner's dogs. And before we get into that, I want to first say that I think Tom Garner is a very accomplished dog man. He's been in the game for a long time. He has a lot of knowledge, and he does a lot of things right. But to everyone that thinks Tom Garner has the best dogs, if you have any dog on your yard and it's not a Tom Garner dog, I have two questions. One, is it just as good as a Tom Garner dog? And two, if it's not, why do you have it? Because if we're all trying to produce the best dogs that we can, then we should own the best dogs that we can. And if I thought his dogs were better than mine, I'd have them, and I don't. So obviously, I am of great faith in my own productions and my own stock, and I believe that my dogs are superior as on a percentage basis of the program. Yes, he's got 200 or 300 dogs and such, and I'm sure he's got some outstanding dogs. Anybody that says he does not have some good dogs or that he's an unaccomplished dog man is being disingenuous, and I'm not going to play that card. I think that's dishonest, and one of the things that I really try to do is promote truth. And so if we're going to promote truth, we have to call it truth. We have to call it the way it is. And so, yeah, I believe our dogs are better.
Yeah. So Lee, you wanted to answer some questions. So that was the first question. What are some other questions, and that you what else do you want to talk about as far as because for some reason why do you think people be sleeping on sorrels, and why is it that do you think people just only think you do bandos and don't realize that you actually do pit bulls?
Well, I don't promote a lot. So unlike Tom Garner, he has a staff of people that work with him. So if you're going to have 300 dogs, you're going to need people to take care of them dogs. I am a one-man show. Okay, we have 30 dogs here, and actually a little over 30 dogs. And not only do I take care of all 30 of those dogs, but I also take care of every breeding. I do it myself. I take care of every pedigree analysis. I do it myself. I study the ancestry of all those dogs myself. I have to test their performance myself. I look at the relationships myself. I have to do the medications and the feeding and the watering and all of that stuff myself. I don't have a group of people that can go out and do the grunt work and then come back and tell me their opinions of a dog that may or may not be right because they may or may not be qualified individuals. So I like personal hands-on myself, get to see what the dogs are myself and make decisions based on the traits that I'm seeing in these dogs. I want to study their ancestry and all those things. So do people know that I have a lot of pit bulls? Well, I also have to do the marketing myself. And since I have to do that marketing in my spare time after all the necessities are done, because I have to deal with my family, my property, my dogs, everything all by myself. I'm not sitting here promoting propaganda to try to make a sale. I have to do that in my spare time. Now, next, on that note, we should also mention something that you said earlier. I am going to refer to the American Pitbull Terrier's traditional venue of assessment from time to time throughout this video, but that is historical documentation and it's nothing that I condone. However, I think it's very important that we look at that information and learn from it, because there are things that can be learned from something that we don't participate in. You know, there was a psychiatrist that I mentioned the other day that did a study on a boy there was twin boys that were born, and when they did the circumcision on one of those boys, he was messed up. This was in the early 1900s, and there was one of the most famous psychiatrists ever decided, well, since they messed him up, let's go ahead and make him a girl. And they wanted to see if they could raise him as a girl, not telling him that he was ever a boy. And so this boy grew up being taught that he was a girl. And as he got older, they even made him do a lot of girl things. Like his twin brother was playing with toy trucks and playing in the dirt and doing things that boys typically do. And then the one that they turned into, quote unquote, turned into a girl, they made him wear dresses. They had him play with dolls. And when he grew up, he was all messed up. He expressed that he always felt like he was a boy, and they would convince him, no, you're not a boy, you're a girl. And he wanted to do boy things. It was in his DNA to really be the truth of what he is. Well, a lot of things can be learned from that study, but and they did some very cruel things to that boy that I'm not even going to get into in this video, because it's not really about that. But psychiatrists today still study that man's work, which is now illegal, thank God, but and learn the truth of what that man's findings were that he tried to suppress and hide, because the truth has come out. And we can look at what has occurred in the American Pitbull Terrier's history, and if we have a brain, we can look at what was the reason for the pit bull being such a formidable and determined individual. Now, the word gameness can be defined in many ways. It can be defined as determination, which somebody said, well, gameness is not determination. And I'm like, this is the problem. There's people out there that want to throw out sound bites without using their brain. Gameness is exactly determination. This person literally said gameness is continuing to move forward despite stress. Well, that's what determination does. Determination is moving forward in spite of the stress. So it's like, sometimes, are you even talking to a person that's got a functional brain, or are you just talking to a person that want to argue? And if you're going to talk to somebody that wants to argue, sometimes the best thing is to just put them aside. Because what we should do is should communicate with people that have ideas that we need to be open to, and we should also communicate with people that have to share our ideas that they are open to. Because when people's bottle or their glass is completely full, there's no room for any additional information. And what if you have a bunch of lies in your glass and you don't know the truth? Well, sometimes you need to pour it out. And some people are afraid to pour it out. They're going to hold on to what they want to believe because it makes them feel good about their ego. You know, they want to be right instead of become right. And it's important that we become right. I think that's very important. Nope, I can't hear you, Jalik. Can't hear you.
Right. Yeah, because the word game is like, I don't know why do you think people want to change what it means, or like why people don't understand that a person can be game too. Like, I don't, and break down what your thoughts are gameness too, Lee, to make it clear, and also the different degrees of it. Because that's what maybe people think we're getting confused on.
Sure. Well, the word game. Oh, I'm getting an echo. So that's probably, there you go. So the word gameness just means exactly that. The determination or willingness to impose one's will or move forward despite the different stresses that may come into play. Whether it be injury, heat exhaustion, running out of air, whether it be being dominated, whatever the stress is that's applied, the individual is determined to keep moving forward. As Rocky Balboa says in his film, nobody's going to hit as hard as life. You know, yesterday I saw a statement online where, and this is a great quote. They said a crackhead can be broke, but he's going to find a way to get that money to buy that next crack. Don't be outworked by a crackhead. In other words, no matter how hard life is, you got to move forward. Look, the last 3 days, thankfully I had a halfway decent night's sleep last night. I got about 6 hours for the first time in a few days. Those of you that don't know, we lost my mother about a week and a half ago, and I've been having to pick up a lot of duties that I don't normally have on top of all the other responsibilities that I have. And so I've only been sleeping about 3 or 4 hours a night for the last few days. And I'm talking about 3 or 4 days. That wears you out. And I saw that quote, don't be outworked by a crackhead. What did I do? I washed 5,000 square foot of kennels twice yesterday. I cut 6 acres of grass yesterday. I loaded up 1,500 pounds of dog food twice because I had to put it in my truck, drive it home, and then unload it and put it in the shed. And then I also I fixed something that was, I had to fix a tire on a tractor. So, and I also moved some logs. So, you know, all that was 10 or 12 hours worth of work. Why do I do it when I've only got 3 or 4 hours of sleep? Because I'm not going to be outworked by a crackhead. Everybody wants to be great, but very few people are willing to do the work. If being great was easy, everybody would be great. And then nobody would be great because we'd all be the same. Greatness is when you stand above the rest. And the pit bull, its determination allows it to stand above the rest. It's been said that the American Pit Bull Terrier can do anything that any other breed of dog can do. Maybe not quite as well, but really competitive to it, very close to it, and then turn around and whoop that dog. So it's going to beat him at its own game or near about beat him at its own game. So it's like, let's say you have a Malinois and you're doing protection work. Well, a pit bull can do a protection work just as good as a Malinois if you get the right pit bull. And then if the Malinois tries to do the pit bull's job, it ain't even close. So the pit bull is a pound for pound the best breed of dog that ever existed. Why? Well, if anybody's offended, let's back up in time. We can disagree with the activity, but we know that determination is an attribute when it's directed towards the appropriate venues. This is why Mississippi State University, their mascot is a bulldog. There's high schools and colleges all over the country that chose the bulldog as their mascot. Now, yes, they may be referring to the English bulldog today, but when they selected that mascot 100 years ago, it wasn't the English bulldog that we have today. It was the pit bull or a very similar type of dog. It was a dog that was determined and capable, despite just being a dog, was able to catch a bull. That's what the word bulldog means. So it is a determined animal, which also, if directed in a bad way, could be called stubborn. All right. Gameness, stubborn, determination, commitment, these are all synonyms.
Yeah, so that's a good point right there. Also, why do you think why do you think the pit bull hasn't evolved as much as it should be, knowing that it is like pound for pound one of the best breeds? Why do you think it hasn't evolved?
Well, it gets a lot of negative stereotypes because there's a lot of people that, one, are involved in illegal activities that we don't condone. Anybody, in my opinion, you can admire a task and the determination and the strength and attributes that are required to excel in that task, like an MMA fighter, where a person chooses to condition and train and become the best that they can at their craft. We can admire that skill. But if you're willing to bet your family, bet everything you own, and go to jail for 100 years or more for being involved in that activity, then you're probably missing a few screws mentally when it comes to responsible personal management and growth in life. And so as a result of the pit bull's history, it attracts a lot of people. Now, prior to 1976, prior to the Animal Welfare Act, dogfighting was illegal in many places, but it wasn't felony. It was misdemeanor and minor offenses. So there was a lot of people back in the early 1900s that were intelligent and still attracted to the game test of the American Pit Bull Terrier. However, when the Animal Welfare Act of 1976 came out and people began doing or getting in major trouble and losing all of their resources, having it all confiscated, some people today are now going to jail for like 400 years, right? I'm not doing that. Okay. No. This is besides the ethical part. I'm talking about the accountability part. Any intelligent person could argue that it's unethical. We shouldn't do it. Okay. I'm not going to disagree with that. Okay. That it's unethical. I'm not going to disagree with that. But even if you believe it's ethical, if you're willing to throw your life away to partake in an illegal activity, to deny your responsibilities as a father or a mother to your children, to deny your responsibles to your mother or your father when they get old because you want to do some irresponsible stuff, to deny the code of ethics that we have been given to us to care for our animals. If you're going to deny these things that come with being a man or a woman on this planet because you want to partake in something that is destructive, I have to question your intelligence. And then it's also involved in a lot of drug crime as well. You know, there's a lot of drug addicts that get involved in this. And then you're also going to have people that are on the macho card involved in it. And a lot of times macho people aren't very macho. They're really more emotional than they are macho. A true macho person is going to be the person that takes care of his family. It's not going to be a person that wants to run his mouth just because somebody called them something that they don't think they should be called. You know, if somebody disrespects my mother, I'm not going to get into a fist fight with them because they said some words. But if they attack my mother, it's going to be game on. The difference is if you attack my mother, what happens to you is no longer my concern because I'm legally immune. I'm allowed to protect myself. I'm allowed to protect my mother. And if bad things happen to you that maybe I didn't even want to happen to you, maybe you got permanent injury or unalived or something along those lines because you attacked my mother and I was concerned for her safety, then I am now immune from accountability as long as the level of force that I use is legally justified. But some people don't think that way. Some people want to become overly macho, overly defensive, and very insecure. And instead of recognizing and balancing the pros and cons of self-respect, and self-respect is important, but also accountability is important. And so I'm not going to just be concerned about what somebody thinks of me because that person doesn't even know me. If I'm just, let's say, walking out the parking lot at Lowe's, putting something in my truck, and somebody says something like, "Get out of my way," blah, blah, blah. I don't know them. Who cares? I'm getting in my truck. I'm going to do my stuff. I don't have to argue with somebody. Well, there's a lot of people in the pit bull world that don't have self-control. They want to argue with people online. They want to argue people face to face. And they, instead of them measuring their own grit, they want to use the dog as a substitute because they think if they have a substitute dog that's macho, they think that dog represents them. No, I am not defined by some words that somebody wants to tell me. I'm not defined by what somebody thinks of me. I'm defined by not my best moment, not my worst moment. I'm defined by what I repeatedly do and what I justify. And so if I repeatedly do things, you can say that's who I am. And if I justify something and believe in something, that you can say that's who I am. And the problem with the pit bull world is there's too many people that don't accept responsibility.
So Lee, what do you say to the critics? Because some of the critics was like, well, Lee, where is his Sorrells dogs at? They don't got no recognition. I ain't seen them hunting pigs. I didn't see them really doing nothing. All I'd seen them doing is I seen one video of one video of this pit bull was biting the rag and then they was laughing. So what do you say to some of the critics about your program, Lee?
Well, they need to do their research because our dogs are definitely out there displaying their attributes. They're catching hogs left and right. They're doing protection work left and right. If you haven't seen it, you haven't looked, or you don't know where to look. I mean, we have a page on our website that's got loads of hog hunting videos. Anybody can go to our website and see all types of hog hunting videos. And you know, we can get there's pit bulls on there. There's not just American Sentinels. There's pit bulls on there too.
So Lee, did you want to wait to answer the questions and go over pre-select, or do you want to answer them right now?
Well, I wanted to.
Because I know you got a lot of stuff to say on certain things.
Yeah, I have a lot of things to say. I'll let you dictate how we flow. Do you want me to go ahead and say some things that I believe, or do you want me to deal with
and I'll pop the question in. Yeah, say some things, and I'll pop the question, because the first question, and then you go back and forth, because we want to make sure make sure y'all smash the thumbs up. I'm Delete the Student. We got my man Lee Robinson with one of the biggest Pitbull programs in the world.
Well, it's not one of the biggest, but I do believe it's one of the best.
Yeah, you're right.
I believe it's one of the best.
Yeah, one of the best. Yeah. So the first question was, and he said, "What's your thoughts on Sorrels with Eli out, Cross?"
You know, that's something that Madison Parker could address if he wants to, because they have done that. You know, Madison ran a lot of Sorrels dogs, and then his brother Skip Parker ran both Sorrels and Boudreaux blood. And of course, the Eli is the Boudreaux blood. But Skip, Madison's brother Skip, was a little bit closer to the Boudreaux side than Madison was. Madison was always more on the Sorrel side. And Skip was also on the Sorrel side, but Skip did dabble in the Boudreaux blood and dabbled in some Boudreaux Sorrels crosses. In fact, that's one of the reasons why Bert Sorrels came out to live with Madison for a while as he was setting up his own property. So I don't know if you knew this or not, but Bert Sorrels lived out west, and he came out to the East Coast and moved to Florida because he got word of Madison Parker being an excellent conditioner and handler of the American Pitbull Terrier, and so he relocated. And but he gave him a test first. He gave Madison a test first. So there was a dog that Boudreaux had that was supposed to be unbeatable. It was an extremely devastating animal. And Bert sent him a dog and said, I want you to take on the best competition there is. Go ahead and see if you can get something lined up. And Madison not only lined it up, but they won that test. And they won that test on gameness. So after that test, Bert Sorrels moved out to Florida, moved in with Madison at the time, and brought his dogs and family with him, and stayed there for a couple of years while they were setting up their own place.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that leads me to ask the question then. With Madison Parker, shout out to Madison Parker, the legend, and his emphasis, I know he was a former Navy SEALs in conditioning. Are you saying that what's the relationship between conditioning and gameness and determination? Do you think it adds to the dog's gameness, the condition that they're in?
Yeah. So here's a very clear way of addressing that. So very few individuals are going to be dead game, and gameness is not going to be tested until you're stressed. So let's say, for example, I'm sitting on a bench and you give me 50 pounds and say, bench press this. Well, that's not stress. I can bench press 50 pounds many times. I don't know how many times, like who does that? So then you add the weight and you double it and you're 100 pounds and I can bench that many times. But then you do get to a point where it starts to be stressful. And if you put too much weight, let's say you put 1,000 pounds on there and you drop it on my chest, it's going to break me in half because I can't take that level of stress. So when you add conditioning to an animal, what you're doing is you're reducing the stress. You're not making the dog more game, but you're reducing the stress because you're making it easier to breathe. So Madison would oftentimes say a dog doesn't have to be dead game. It has to be game enough to win. And so if it's game enough to win, then that means it's not going to be shut off just because it got a little tired. It's not going to be shut off because it got a little pain. It's not going to be shut off because it's got a little determination. In fact, it can take a lot of being tired. It can take a lot of heat. It can take a lot of pain. It can take a lot of dominance. It can take a lot of these things. Now, how far it can go, I don't know, because I'm not going to push the animal to its death, because I want to use this individual in competition, which means I don't want to destroy it. So what we're going to do is we're going to condition the animal and get it to perform its best. And that way, by conditioning the animal, we have allowed it to move faster, be more defensive, more offensive, have better air, better heat tolerance, and we're reducing the stress. We're making it stronger and more formidable. In other words, it's going to be harder to stop this individual because now it's not stressed as much. It can overcome things easier. So that's what conditioning does. It doesn't make the dog more game. It just makes the dog less stressed.
Okay, I appreciate you guys. Shout out to my man Scary Cats right there representing Detroit. So, okay, I got a question for you because we know in boxing, just because you more game, that don't mean you're gonna win. So is it a such case where you have one dog that's more conditioning and more intelligent and less game, but can still beat a dog that's more game?
Absolutely, that can happen. I mean, you could find it happens with people in MMA all the time. Somebody just has a lot of technical skills, and the other person is weaker. I mean, you can't stop them, but you can knock them out, or you can destroy them or break them down, and the ref has to flag it off because it's too one-sided. And so, yeah, that can absolutely happen. Now, I also want to reiterate that anything that I'm referring to is historical, right? We're talking about back in the prior to decades and decades and decades ago, right? So with that said, I want to emphasize, why does the American Pit Bull Terrier and its history influence me as a protection trainer or a hog hunter? Well, if I'm breeding a dog for hog hunting, when you go in there, let's explain how hog hunting works. A lot of people have seen the hog hunting videos where there's helicopters flying around in prairies of Texas or something like that, and they have these hogs running out in crowds, and people are shooting them with AR-15s, or they're setting up traps. Well, you can do that in a field, but you're not going to do that in Mississippi. All right. And you can hunt hogs in a field in Mississippi, but you're not going to come across very many hogs. The hogs are more often than not in the woods or in the swamp, in the thicket, and things like that. So if you're going in to a very deep thicket, and you come across a bunch of hogs, then you're going to have a very limited range, right? You're going to be able to. It's like deer hunting. You can go deer hunting many, many, many times before you ever get a shot. But if you want to eradicate these animals, because they do a lot of destruction to the habitat, they destroy hunting areas, they destroy crops, they destroy property, they destroy wildlife management areas. Well, when they're destroying so much land, we don't want to just kill one or two a year. We want to eradicate these animals out of an environment that they're not supposed to be in. They're an invasive species. All right. So they're destroying the natural habitat. This means we need to take out large quantities. So trapping is going to be an effective method, but also releasing bay dogs that run into the woods and they find the hogs. And then you have a tracker on your dog with today's technology. Then you find your dog that found the hog. You know where the hogs are. Now you're going to go in there with animals that have tusks, like razors. And there's been, people that have been gored by these hogs. Well, this is when you release your catch dog. The catch dog goes in there and grabs the hog to control it. Now you're going to come in there with a knife or something to dispatch that hog, and you want to make sure you don't hurt your dog. So that's why you're not going to use a rifle, right? If you're using a rifle, you're not going to get close enough a lot of times because of the thicket. You can only see 20 yards or 10 yards in some of these places. Some places you might be able to see 50 yards or 100 yards, but a lot of times you can only see 10, 15, 20, 30 yards. And so you're not going to come across very many hogs this way. But if you have a catch dog and you walk in there while your dog is secured that hog, now you can dispatch the hog. But the dog has to be able to hold onto it securely. If that hog gets away from that dog, you're going to be in danger. So the determination of the dog definitely matters in a hog dog. Now, as far as protection work goes, this is even more important. Frankie Bomp, not Blanco.
Well, I'm talking to that's not. That's his name. That's his,
I got you. I got you. I thought you were. I'm just joking with your aliases sometimes.
That's my boy right there, rock solid. Shout out to Frankie Blanco. That's my boy.
Yeah, I got you. So I was just making a joke though about the nicknames that you give, but because my wife and I laugh about that, we're not offended. We laugh about it. The but when it comes to protection work, this is something that a lot of the pit bull people don't understand, and also a lot of the protection people don't understand. So when I first started studying the American Pit Bull Terrier, I noticed that in documents how they would describe that they would school a dog. I was like, well, they're schooling the dog for real combat. You know what else is real combat? Protection is real combat. It's not a game. It's not a sport. It's real combat. And so while dogfighting was a real combative sport, it was also real combat. Those dogs had their life on the line many times, right? And it's nothing that I'm want to be involved in. It really isn't. So if somebody wants to contact me and ask me for a dog for that venue, I'm just going to hang up on you. I'm not going to entertain those type of conversations. And we've had people call me and I just hang up. A guy says, yo, I got a real game dog. I'm looking for something to breed it to. What you got for sale? Nothing. Click. And I hang up. I'm not going to partake in those type of conversations. I'm looking for legal venues like hog hunting or protection work. But in protection work, I do not want my dog to ever quit. It has to be determined, right? And so why? What if I'm not home? What if my 15-year-old daughter is here alone and somebody breaks into the house? I need my 15-year-old or 16-year-old daughter to be able to get to safety. Well, if that dog lets go, my daughter's in danger. And you're like, well, yeah, but a pit bull is only like 50 pounds. It might not be able to stop that person. Well, this is why the American Sentinel exists. I wanted to make it larger. However, even if it's not larger, even if you just have a 50-pound pit bull, as long as that dog is engaged, that man has to deal with that dog. He has to get that dog off of him if it's a protection dog, which means the daughter is still fine. She can get to safety. The daughter is not safe when the dog quits. It doesn't matter if it's a 50-pound dog or a 150-pound dog. When the dog quits, the man can now attack my daughter. So determination or gameness is the most important thing, not only in the pit bull. It's also the most important thing in a protection dog. And so I look for drives and determination in combat. Some people look for nerves. I look for drives and determination, because drives and determination is the most important thing when it comes to gameness. Gameness is a combination of prey drive, fight drive, defense drive, confidence, air, which is stamina, agility, power, durability. All of these things come into play when it comes into gameness. You know what doesn't come into play? Nerves very seldom come into play. It can in some cases, but very seldom. And the reason why we know this, and the pit bull is the example of this, is there's been many fear, insecure individuals in the pit bull's history that were timid dogs until they were stimulated. When they were stimulated, they wouldn't stop no matter what. So now, because I like to train, I don't want an insecure dog. I don't want a nervous dog. I want a confident dog. I want a dog that I can do obedience with. I want a dog that if I correct it, it doesn't shut down and go into complete avoidance. I don't want a dog that if I walk by a parade and an ambulance drives by, it's nervous and scared of the ambulance. I want a confident dog, because this is going to make the dog more trainable, but it doesn't make the dog necessarily more determined in combat. And so if I'm looking for a protection dog, I want a dog that I can train, so I need nerves. But for gameness, I need the determination, the air, the stamina, agility, the drive, the confidence. And I'm talking about confidence in combat. I'm not talking about nerves. That's a different type of confidence. So the difference is confidence in combat is stimulated by epinephrine, which is adrenaline, and also endorphins. They like the combat. Okay, they're loaded up. They have tunnel vision. The pain sensors are cut down. Their eyes get tunnel vision. If you ever had an emergency, it seems like time slows down. You only see what's directly in front of you. You lose awareness of what's going on around you. You only see your target or whatever it is. Like if a bear's coming in and it scares you, it's like, that's all you see. Well, we know that epinephrine, which is adrenaline, causes tunnel vision. It causes vasodilation or constriction. I can't remember, but it increases the blood pressure also. So your heart rate goes up. You get tunnel vision. You get auditory exclusion. In other words, things are going to be said or done that normally would cause a painful reaction to the ear. But even now in the adrenaline situation, you're still going to get damage to the ear, but you're not going to notice it. You'll notice it tomorrow because you have damage in the ear. But while it happened, you didn't notice it. You know, a lot of times we as men, when we're outside working, we pick up something, we're determined we want to move something or do something, and we're getting aggressive on the project. And then when we get done, we look at our hand and we're bleeding, and we don't even know when or where or how we got cut because we were focused on something else.
Okay. So that's interesting right there. Let me get to some more of these questions. Make sure y'all smash the thumbs up. I'm Jaguar the Band Dog. That's Lee Robinson here. We talking about pit bulls.
Right.
Thinking outside.
Look at this comment. Yeah, there's a comment. A guy said, "How can you think outside the box if you're not in it?" That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Okay.
That's what I'm talking about. The question should not be, "How can you think outside the box if you're not in it?" The question should be, "How can you think outside the box if you are in it?"
Go ahead and answer that.
If you're in the box and that's all you do, then you don't know how to think outside the box. All right. So this is what I'm talking. No offense, but
Lover boy, go ahead, Lover boy. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So when you're doing protection work, a lot of the people that do game dogs, they only know if a dog is game at the end of the event. They have to wait for it to be over to see if the dog was game. But a person that does training, they have to know how to read the dog. They have to know what is prey drive? What does confidence look like? What does an eye shift look like? What does the hair on the back look like? What does the tail position look like? What do the ears look like? What is the focus? How is the dog shifting its feet? How is the dog moving? Is the movement to be like a dog can duck for two reasons. It can duck because it's wanting to back up and get out of there, or it can duck because it's getting ready to jump. And a person that understands canine behavior and training can distinguish the difference. A lot of people don't know the difference. You know, this is where education and experience comes into play. And again, I'm not trying to be mean to this person. I don't know who this is, so they should not take it.
I appreciate.
Yeah, they should.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Now we appreciate you come. You can, as long as you be respectful, you can ask whatever you want to, because we here to agree to disagree. We all respect your perspective. You know, we all can learn from each other. This is what my channel is about. So go ahead and ask your questions. You know what I'm saying? Because some people are so in the box, they don't know. Like that's all that they know. If a person only know one thing, then that's all they know.
Right, but how are you going to think outside the box if your brain is in the box? To be able to think outside the box, you have to put your brain outside the box. It's the exact
opposite. Because their head's stuck in the box, Lee.
Right.
They don't know. They don't know. They don't know.
This is where getting education and experience in other venues opens minds. I have had people come here that have been diehard Pitbull people for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. I kid you not. We have had people come here in their 60s that have had Pitbulls for 20 years, and their mind is blown. They're like, I have never seen anything like this in my life. I didn't think it could exist. And wow, you know, but they don't know because they've never been outside the box. You gotta step out. Look at that. What's written in animal behavior. Go study what it takes to condition something to its optimum instead of just listening to, you know, the guy down the street that did something, you know, 20 years ago, and he's your mentor. Go out and look at the world-class trainers, the world-class conditioners, the world-class behavioralists, the world-class psychologists, the world-class husbandry people, the world-class nutritionists. Find what these people have to say, especially the behavior people, and you can find a lot about how to read an animal. But actually even learning these things, like what is drive, that doesn't do it for some people. Like you can teach a person how to read music, but that doesn't mean they're going to be able to play the piano. And then there's also some people that can play the piano that can't read music. But when you can read music and you can play the piano, now you have a true master, right? because let's say you have somebody that says, all right, let's say you find this person that has just got this autistic skill where they can sit down and they can play beautiful music. They just have that skill. But if they can't read music, and then somebody presents them a beautiful song, but they've never heard it, they can't play it. They don't understand it. So, and also the person that can read it, they can't play it either if they don't have that skill. So you got to have both. Reading books and going to school does not trump experience. You're absolutely right. It doesn't trump experience, and it doesn't replace experience, but you got to have both. If you want to be a master, you got to have both.
I agree with you on that one. Now, let me get to another question. They said, what's your thoughts? Let me see where let's see. What's your thoughts on your line, Robinson's American Pitbull Terrier line with that Garner cross? What you think of those?
All right, I want to go back on that statement one more time about experience with books real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
Never in my life have I met an educated man that said I wasted my time on an education. Everybody that disrespects the information in a book, or everybody that disrespects experience, it always comes from a person that's not read a book or they don't have experience. Because when you find somebody that has experience, they learned in that experience. When you find somebody that reads the right books, they learn from those books. And all of this makes us stronger. Now, the next question was what?
So your Robinson's Pit Bulls with the Garner crosses. Have you seen any of those?
I have not done it. It could work. I mean, the Garner dogs, a lot of them go back to a lot of the Boudreaux stuff. You know, Chinaman was basically built off of a lot of the Boudreaux stuff. So, you know, Madison Parker's brother Skip did the Boudreaux Sorrels line, and they had success with it. So it could work.
Okay.
And then, you know, he's got other blood now too. You know, he's got that snooty stuff. He's got, which I know works with it. So it could definitely work.
Okay. Shout out to my man J.O. up in Louisville. He said, what you think about is that the same question? Let me see. What you think about the Bolio Sorrels cross Megiddo did with Cayenne?
I don't know anything about it.
Oh, you don't know anything?
Bolio works well with Sorrels, but I don't know anything about what he did with Cayenne. Cayenne was a nice dog. The same person, look, this is going to be the last time I address it. He says, there's some jobs you can't get without experience. There's also some jobs you can't get without education. You need both. The best jobs in the world are always going to be positioned by people that have experience and education. And education doesn't mean a degree. You can go out and get an education on your own. You can read a book. You can have a mentor. You can have people that are qualified at the highest level give you that education and give you that experience. But there's nobody that's going to get the top position without both education and experience. You can be good on experience. You can be good on education, but to be great, you have to have both. And I don't want to address that anymore because then it's just a personal argument with me and this individual.
Shout out to Loverboy. Yeah, Loverboy McCoy. So you answered that question. I'm getting to all your questions, guys. Shout out to Lee for taking the time out. He could be doing anything else. Let me see. That one. Okay, so John Bass, he said, Lee, what do you think about people saying Joni took Bert's best dogs and left him with the inferior stock and he wasn't able to recover his program? They say he hasn't been relevant since the 70s or the 80s. Okay.
That's a load of crap. So besides, Joni wasn't even around in the 70s or 70s. Okay, so that's not even true at all. They just need to do their study.
So that's just okay. Okay, so
yeah, I mean, Bert was relevant all the way up until 2000.
Is Joni is that his wife or like is that his girl or story? Like what?
Bert was married twice. His first wife is not known in the pit bull world. Joni Winchester is who they're talking about. That was his second wife, and they didn't split up until like 94 or so.
Oh,
so,
okay.
And she did not take his best dogs and him not be able to recover. That's not true. All right, she took some dogs for sure, but no, he was definitely relevant well past 2000. Madison Parker had a bunch of great dogs, was breeding a bunch of great dogs. We're getting off the topic though. The question should be saved for the end. And you know, this guy's still. He says there's some jobs you can go to school and can't get a job. You can also have experience and can't get a job. That's my point. You need both.
Okay. So what else? I know you had a list of things that you wanted to go over too. So you talk about that. Can you address the myth that I had somebody in the I had addressed the myth that pit bulls just can't do protection for some reason. They like, oh, you shouldn't do protection because they was called, and they call them man biters. So they basically, a lot of people that I've seen that the pit bull, they give them a bad name, like, oh, these are man biters. We got to get rid of them. Can you address that?
Yeah. All right. So let me send you something real quick. All right. So as far as man biters, this is again a topic where people that don't have experience with doing protection work can't distinguish. So if you have experience and education, you can learn that there's many different reasons why a dog will do what it does. So why does a dog bite a man? Some people say, well, people that had pit bulls in the early 1900s would cull man biters. Baloney. Like Colby had dogs that like killed a kid, bit his nephew, bit his wife. Okay. So then people say, well, Colby says he would breed against man aggression. Well, explain why his wife was bit, his kid was bit, and some other kid was killed. Okay. So why did he breed those dogs? Well, they had other attributes that he desired. Now, additionally, Bolio would bite a man when he was stimulated. So you have to ask, why is the dog biting? Is the dog biting because it's in prey drive? Is the dog biting because it's in defense? Somebody attacks the dog and the dog is defending itself. Is the dog biting because of rank or dominance? Like you dropped a steak, you went down to pick it up. The dog says, no, you're not taking this steak. This is mine. I'm going to take possession of it. So a person that doesn't have experience doesn't know how to distinguish the difference between stability, prey, defense, dominance, insecurity. There's many different reasons why a dog can bite. And a dog that is understood, I will not breed a dog that is unstable. Okay. If the dog is unstable means unpredictable. It can fall at any time and go any direction at any time. That's unpredictable. I'm not going to breed a dog that is unpredictable or unstable. A good breeder, however, if they have a goal, they can manage a dog that is stable. Like let's say you have a defensive dog. Well, just don't get that dog in a defensive situation. Control its environment. Make sure the environment is positive, and then nobody has to worry about getting bit. All right. Or if the dog is a prey-driven dog, well, don't walk that dog next to a bike path where people are riding by. I mean, some dogs are stimulated by movement. Okay. If a dog is reactive, well, if you have two dogs that are like trying to bark at each other, but they can't get at each other, don't throw your hand right in front of one of them, right when it's trying to get at the other dog, and it just redirects and takes, oh, something moved right there. Let me grab it. All right. So to say pit bulls shouldn't do protection work and that all man biters need to be put down, this is ignorance. You don't know what you're talking about. Okay. So get the experience. And when you get the experience, you'll understand how to differentiate between a prey bite, a defense bite, an unstable bite, a dominant bite. And some of these dogs are acceptable in the breeding program and some are not. And then some are only acceptable in the right hands. If they get the wrong hands, this guy needs to go. This guy makes the dumbest comments. I mean, he was talking trash about Garner. Sorry. I think he should be silenced, but whatever. I mean, he's just spamming the group. All right. I can tell you right now, the guy's probably 20 years old or 30 years old and probably doesn't have any accomplishments, because accomplished dogmen don't say the stuff that he said. He said Garner is dogs are trash. No accomplished dogman is going to say Garner's dogs are trash. This is probably a 20-year-old kid or 30-year-old kid.
This is a good
I'm
question.
sorry
Right
to be
here.
disrespectful, but we got to be professional and realistic.
Now, you know you're going to have those people up there. So, Lee, this is a great question right here. He said, if you're not breeding best to best based on traits defined by selection, how is the standard formed? Using the dogs outside the box is perfect. What is the selection of best to best if training versus genetics? Shout out to my man Scary Cat. Shout out to Detroit.
If you're not breeding best to best based on traits defined by selection, then how is the standard formed? Yeah, you should be breeding best to best based on traits. The standard should be formed around the traits. Now, some people form standards based off of phenotype, but a proper standard should be formed on performance. So, and for anybody, hold on, let me see something real quick. Just so nobody thinks I'm making up something, when I went off on the lover boy guy, put the post up there where he says Garner dogs are trash. History proves that.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, I see him up there. Yeah. So
yeah, put that up there so people can see that we're getting distracted by stuff like this. It's just nonsense. Anybody that says that does not know the man's accomplishments. They're just, it's immature stuff. All right, now let me get back to the point. So the any breeding standard should be, and I don't even have Garner dogs, don't want Garner dogs, but I'm not going to call him trash because this guy's good at what he does. All right, so and this is where it's important to seek truth. You know, it would be nice for me to say that my dogs are best in the world and that Garner's dogs are trash, but that's not being objective. That's not being honest. That's not being truthful. And we should be truthful. And Garner is an accomplished dogman. And also truthful, every standard, even for protection dogs or even for hog dogs, should always be defined by the traits required to excel, the traits required to succeed. And this would be one area that I could take issue with something that Garner said. And for example, he talked about the dog's bite, and I have a prop here. But before I
go ahead, yeah,
show the prop, let me show a screen. I'm going to do a screen share. And I'm going to share this screen. So in this video here, and I'm not going to play the video because of copyright, but if you want to see this video, just go to Tom Garner's page and type in more about the nature of the canine underbite.
Oh, okay.
You will see a video where he talks about justifying the dog as an underbite, saying why the dog can bite harder when it hangs down and stuff like that. I do take issue with some of the stuff he says, but I'm not going to deny his accomplishments. But this is where education comes into play and not just experience. We have other people that are experienced in physics and mechanics and things like that. And there's a tool called, this wrench. It has a certain place where the jaw has to line up. Now here you have what's called a fulcrum. That's a pivot point. All right. It allows the jaw to open and close. Well, a dog has the same type of mechanics. They have a lower jaw and an upper jaw. The upper jaw is attached to the top of the head. It does not move. Only the lower jaw moves. And so as it opens, we have a pivot of a fulcrum. Now you can put something in there, and then if it's large, and the jaw is too far open, you don't have good crushing power because you're going to lose what's called the mechanical advantage. So to crush something like this, now we're going to have to adjust the jaw and make it larger so we have a greater mechanical advantage. And so this type of wrench allows the jaw to maintain a scissor bite at all positions. Depending on there is a scissor bite. Now the upper and lower jaw are aligned, which allows maximum crushing power. If we get an underbite, like in that position, the jaw does not work properly anymore. Okay, so we want to always keep a scissor bite. So you want this position for when something's small, this position for when something's large, and we learn this through what's called the mechanical advantage. And so I'm going to share another screen, but let me open this up. And for anyone that thinks I'm just using book smarts, no, this is also observed in real world. There's no wild mammal that has an underbite.
So you said that a dog with a small underbite will automatically be inferior to a dog with a scissor bite if they was catch dogs?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
All right, hold on just a minute.
Okay. While you doing that, make sure y'all smash the thumbs up. I got my homie Lee Robinson here talking about pit bulls and thinking outside of the box, guys. Thinking outside of the box is a literal thing that we all should do. We can't just, if you born in, say you was born in Alaska, the world don't revolve around Alaska. In order for you to evolve, you got to start thinking outside of Alaska if you want to grow, if that's your goal. And if you want to stay in the box, sure, go ahead. But don't get mad at people that's thinking outside of the box. And that's what we're doing here with the pit bull. I'm Jalik the student. You see Jaguar the band dog. You'll be seeing me on Instagram and stuff like that.
All right. So let me share a screen. Now, what was your question?
So if you got two dogs, right? Say the dog with maybe a small underbite, do you think that they would perform less than a dog with a scissor bite when it comes to catch work?
Well, this is also an overly simplified question. Okay. So and the reason why I say it's overly simplified, a proper bite will never make a dog win unless everything else is equal. And everything else is never equal. So if you give a proper bite on an inferior, like a dog that has no stamina, no agility, no gameness, no determination, no heat tolerance, it doesn't matter that the bite is right? It's only going to matter when you have equal versus equal. Then the deciding factor is going to be the one that puts it in the winning position. And that's going to, so in nature, a bad bite isn't eliminated always in one generation. It's slowly over time, little by little, the little flaws get outcompeted, because in nature, survival is competition. And so slowly over time, competition gets rid of the things that are inferior. And in physics, if you study mechanics, you can learn why a certain thing is bad. And for a person to say, well, a dog bites harder because it has an underbite, and then he even said, let's make us larger. We'll come back to that picture in a minute. Make us larger. All right. Yeah. So now a coat hanger can hang on a rod because there's no fulcrum. There's no pivot point. So if you have a coat hanger, you hook it on a rod, it can hang there. But teeth are not lockjaw. They're not fixed. They have a fulcrum, a pivot point that causes it to change position. And so if you put a coat hanger on a rod that has a fulcrum, it's just going to open up and fall off. Because of that jaw, there's a pivot point. Now let's go back to the image.
Okay.
In this image, we can see, can you see my mouse or not?
Let me see, try it again. Yeah, I can see it. Yep, I can see it. All right.
Yep. So in this first example, we have a fulcrum between the opposing situations. So we really, did I zoom in there when I did that? Does that show a zooming in?
Yeah.
All right. So this is just a stolen image for now. I'm not sure about what they're labeling the purple and the yellow, but let's say, for example, that in the purple is somebody sitting on a seesaw, and you have somebody else sitting on the seesaw, and then here's the pivot point. Well, if these two people weigh the same amount, the one that is further from the fulcrum has a greater mechanical advantage. So they are going to go to the ground, and the one that's closer to the fulcrum is going to get pushed up. Because even though they weigh the same, this one's going to have a long lever to make mechanical advantage take place. And so therefore this person's going to get pushed up. This is why you can use a stick to lift up something heavy. You put let's say this object here weighs 200 pounds, and you put the fulcrum 1 foot away from that 200-pound object, and you only weigh 100 pounds, you're going to need to be at least 2 feet away just to get level. And any distance beyond 2 feet is going to give you the ability to lift that object. This is what mechanical advantage does. It's mathematical calculations that we can use. We know that the longer the lever is on this side of the fulcrum, the greater our force is going to be to lift that rock. Now, what if we reverse it? Let's say the rock is over here and you want to lift it up, so the arrow is going to be pointed up. The rock wants to push down, but you're going to try to lift it up. And you're really close to the fulcrum, the pivot point. You're not going to be able to pick it up. You don't have the strength when you're this close to the fulcrum to pick it up. All right. Now, the fulcrum is not always in between the two objects. Sometimes you have the objects on the same side of the fulcrum, like here, a doorway. You have a hinge. Here's your hinge, and then this is the door. So you have two people pushing on the door, one pushing the door closed, one pushing the door open. The one that's at the furthest from the hinge, if these two people have the same strength, the one that's further from the hinge is going to have the mechanical advantage and going to be able to open the door. That's just the way levers work. Okay. When you reverse that, now again, the one that's further away is going to have the greater advantage. So when we can understand how fulcrums work, then we can learn very quickly that the jaw is just a fulcrum. This is the pivot point. Here on our jaw, we have a group of muscles, one behind the fulcrum that pulls up on the back of the jaw, and that causes the bottom of the jaw to go down. So the back of the jaw is going up, and the front of the jaw is going down. Now, to bite something, and I'm just going to put this in my mouth for example, that when you have something in front of your mouth, you have muscles in front of the fulcrum that pull the jaw up. Well, since my muscles are when they're in front of the fulcrum, they're not all the way out on the sides. Like, why does an alligator have such a long or such heavy meat inside the jaw? Let me look at an open jaw of a crocodile.
Smash the thumbs up, guys. We rolling. I appreciate y'all questions up on here. As long as it's respectful, I'll try to get to all your questions. And if you start trolling, I mean, come on. If you're gonna be a troll, at least be funny and cool. But don't be a troll and not funny and cool, bro. You can't have it. You gotta be cool and funny.
Yeah, I agree. Trolling for the purpose of trolling is there's no benefit there. All it does is interfere with an intelligent conversation.
Shout out to the 313. He said if you gonna breed on set of box, why you use Amstel? You crazy, man.
Exactly. I agree. Don't use Amstabs. All right. So look at this picture here. Now, on this picture, the fulcrum is way back here. The bottom of the jaw comes way back here. Notice all of this muscle that's in front of the fulcrum. When we open our mouth, we don't see the muscles all the way in front, so far away from the fulcrum. Because of this, the crocodile is able to bite really hard. Now, despite that, even though it can, let me get rid of that. What's going on? Let me refresh this page. So even though the muscles are well in front of the jaw, if this was, let's say, capable of pulling, I don't know, let's just say 2,000 pounds of PSI. I don't know what their bite pressure is, but let's just say it's 2,000 pounds. If you have something way out here on the end that is going to open at 2,000 pounds, that jaw is coming open, because the further away from the jaw the fulcrum is, the greater the mechanical advantage it is. So if you want 2,000 pounds of pressure, but this is, let's say, 30% of the distance from the fulcrum to the muscle, and you're able to deliver 2,000 pounds of crushing force, then, but this is 3 times away. So let's say this is 6 inches here, but then this is 18 inches. So that's 3 times further. Well, now you're going to have to take 2,000 and divide it by 6, which is going to be what, 1,200? Or no, it's going to be, divide it by 6. So that's going to be 2,000. It's going to be 600 plus another 60, 7 or something like that, 667 pounds. It would take 667. If this was 2,000 pounds, it would take 667 pounds or whatever, if it was 3 times further to open that jaw. All right, that's the way bite pressure works. And if the jaw doesn't line up, that it's not able to deliver that pressure into the object that it's biting. The jaw needs to, the upper and lower teeth need either, this is called an even bite. And so if the top jaw is in front just barely, but they're touching, this is a scissor bite. And if the bottom jaw is in front, but they're touching, this is called a reverse scissor bite.
Okay.
The best performance is going to be either the even bite or the scissor bite, okay, where the top jaw is barely in front. That's the best bite. But if you're going to go to a dog show like the AKC and get an Amstaff that has the perfect bite, that's just the looks. You also have to have what's in the head, the desire, the gameness, the drive, the determination. You also have to have the circulatory system, something that you can't see. You've got to field test it. You got to work that animal and see if it's going to continue to work. See if they run hot, see if they get tired. And if they do get tired, do they quit when they're tired? Or do they want to keep going because they have that determination? And you have to put them up. Because if you don't put them up, the dog's going to have a heat stroke because it wants to work. So this is where we have to be able to use our education, our experience, our judgment, our knowledge, our understanding of mechanics, our understanding of what else is not in the book. So like some of this stuff is in the books, but some of it may not be in the books. Like when you go to the AKC show, what's in the books there is it's all anatomical structure. Their standard is based off of phenotype, what you can look at. That's wrong. You don't want to just have the books only show you the structure. You also want the books to show you the behavior of drive, determination, stamina, agility. All of these things are measured in the category of winning. Does the dog win or lose? Does the dog quit or go forward? So you can call something winning, you can call something determination, but the truth is that if the book is just, I breed what wins, I breed what is determined, now you're measuring all of these other things like cardiovascular fitness, agility, durability, drive, and other things.
Yeah. So anything else you wanted to address, Lee, before we get to another question?
No, go ahead with the questions. It's good.
We still got a couple more minutes. Yeah. I appreciate you guys for coming in. So Scary Cat said, let me see. He said something about, I'm sorry. My point is you can't breed training. You can breed a solid dog. So what traits and use of the pit bull that's not in the Amstaff for out of the box purpose? Can the pit bull be used in many things? Absolutely.
Yeah, good question. Good question. I like that. You can't breed the traits.
Yeah, shout out to Detroit. Yeah.
Yeah, good question. You can't breed training, but you can breed intelligence. And intelligence makes training very rapid. And you also can't breed conditioning. You can breed an animal that conditions easily. You can breed an animal that trains easily. But the training is still going to need to be done, and the conditioning is still going to need to be done. But why make your job harder? Why not breed an animal that's intelligent and adaptable and naturally fit to begin with? So if you take an animal that's naturally fit, that's going to help in the conditioning aspect. If you take an animal that's healthy, that's going to help in the recovery aspect. You don't want to breed a dog with hip dysplasia because it's going to take too long to recover. So you need to have a dog that's got good hips, good agility, good natural physical abilities. That makes your conditioning easier The dog can recover faster because you bred a sound physical individual. You want to breed an intelligent individual because it's going to learn faster. Like Reptar was a very nice dog, but he was a type of dog that if I had him on a flexi leash and we were walking and he walked around the tree on one side and I walked around the tree on the other side, he would look at me stuck and say, "Will you unwrap me?" That doesn't happen with Chewy. With Chewy, if she goes around the tree, she walks back around the tree. I mean, she knows that when she's running her, we call them zoomies. She goes out there and just runs in circles like a helicopter. She knows to stay inside the perimeter of the tree. She never gets wrapped up. And if for some reason, let's say a squirrel happens to run by and she sees a squirrel and darts around a tree, just because she's chasing the squirrel, when I say, "Chewy, stop," and I hit the button and she hits that tree with the line, she looks at the line and unwraps herself. She's smart. It makes my job easier.
Shout out to Lee Robinson. Shout out to my man Bird Rebel City. He said it's kind of related because you're talking about pit bulls. He said, "I wonder what Lee's ideal pit bull percentage is for your American Sentinel program." Since we talk about pit bulls, we might as well talk about that. It's kind of related.
Yeah. Well, it's about the traits. It's not about the number. No such thing as I can say that. Excuse me. I can say my favorite dogs tend to be around 70%, 75%, but it's not about the number. It's about the traits. If it was 100% pit bull that met the Sentinel standard, that's great. If it's a 0% pit bull and it met the Sentinel standard, that's great. But I don't have any 0% Sentinels. All of our Sentinels now are 50% and more. I don't even know if I have I take that back. What about Onyx is 44. So she's the only one that's going to be less than 50% now. The rest of them are all going to be over 100%, with a lot of them being in the high 60s to all the way up to 80. And then we got some even over 80%. But most of them are going to be around the 70 to 75% category, which seems to be excellent. However, this is where some people say book smarts don't matter because they think book smarts means numbers, and it doesn't mean numbers. Book smarts also gives. Never in any medical journey have I ever seen someone come up with an opinion without experimental testing. In science, we have to have experimental testing. This is experience. The scientific method contains a bunch of steps: observation, question, hypothesis, experiment, results, conclusion, and theory. The theory is the one part that I really don't like in the scientific method because it's not always testable. The parts that matter the most are the parts that are testable. The experience part comes in there. So let me make a list of this real quick so our viewers can see it.
Yeah, I put that picture. I put instead of Pokey, a Soros Pokey up there. That was my fault. Lee, y'all corrected me, and Lee gave me that picture. So I appreciate on this channel as the channel start to grow. I'm the type person that I love feedback. You can constructively criticize me. My feelings ain't gonna hurt. Ain't gonna get hurt. Now, as long as you're respectful, you cool. If you go on troll, you gotta be funny and you gotta be relatable. If not, I'm gonna get you out of there. But if you got a different opinion, you can ask it. I actually like the hard questions. I like people that like challenge me. I don't want nobody that's like a yes man that just agree with me all the time. I don't like that. You know what I'm saying? We want the hard questions. We want the hard life, baby. We game over here. We got that game blood over here. Let's go.
Yeah, well, I agree with that, except for like I want to emphasize the troll. When a person is just trolling, they're just going to spam and spam and spam, and they're also not being honest or experienced. Anybody that says that's like experience matter, but then Tom Garner's trash, dude, you don't have experience, because if you had experience, you wouldn't say that. So that's just a troll. I'm sorry to hurt the feelings on one of our viewers, but I got to call call it like it is, So I tried to do a share screen. I don't know if it's working.
Yeah, the screen.
All right.
Yeah, right there.
So observation, question, hypothesis, experiment, results, conclusion, and theory. So we have, let me fix this. So at the top of this list, we have OQHERCT. Oliver quit his exciting race car team. That was a phrase that I used when I was teaching. For those of you that don't know, I taught science and biology for 25 years. I have 2 degrees in animal sciences. I worked at the Cincinnati Zoo and Botanical Gardens. I worked with CREW, which was a Center for the Conservation and Research of Endangered Wildlife. Animals is what I've done my whole life. But I also taught biology for 25 years. And when we teach biology, we teach the scientific method. Now, the theory one, this is the one aspect that you could take question with, because all of these other aspects are based on both education and experience. So we observe something. Well, how do we observe something? Oops. We observe something through experience. We go out and we witness it. We see something. And when we see something, we have a question. Like, let's say we observe gameness. And so now we have a question. Well, what is gameness? And we can formulate a hypothesis that gameness is, how we're going to define it. Well, it's determination, it's grit, it's the ability to keep moving forward despite stress. Well, now we're going to hypothesize, can gameness be bred? Can gameness be trained? All right. So if we know that gameness is the ability to move forward despite stress, and we know that gameness is genetic, then that tells us gameness cannot be trained, gameness cannot be conditioned, because it's a willingness to move forward despite the stress. However, what can be trained and what can be conditioned is removing the stress. So when we remove the stress, we're not testing the gameness to the same level. And this is where I started to say earlier, some protection trainers don't understand why gameness matters, but that's because they never studied gameness. If you study gameness, go talk to an MMA trainer. I mean, a top level trainer. Before they train you for a year or two, they're going to want to know, can you take a punch? Are you going to quit the first time you break your pinky? When you punch somebody, you break your pinky, and you didn't even get punched yet, and you're crying. They're going to be like, dude, you don't have what it takes. All right. So you can't make a dog game, but you can make them less likely to take punishment by improving their agility, improving their technical skills, improving their power. Flesh is always going to get cut, so if somebody bites you or stabs you, you're going to bleed. I mean, nobody's got knife-proof skin, right? And dogs don't either. So, but you can train technique, and you can add endurance, you can add agility, you can add power, you can add stamina, and you can add intelligence. These are things that you can do. So now that you have these opinions, you can test those opinions. So we can test these opinions by field testing and observation of, can I improve the ability to breathe? And okay, so last time we walked this dog and it was 90 degrees out. The dog wanted to lay in the creek and didn't want to get up again. After we went 5 miles and it was 90 degrees out, the dog didn't want to get up again. He just wanted to lay in the creek. Well, the dog had quit. Well, you can condition the animal and do so in an intelligent way. And then maybe the next time you test the dog, it goes 6 miles. Well, now we know that the conditioning made the dog, it didn't make it more game, but it made it go further because we've reduced the stress. You're not going to make the dog more game. The gameness is genetic, but you can reduce.
See, that's the part that I'm learning, guys. I'm learning my pit bull stuff. I'm saying? I got 3 American Sentinels, and in the future, I'm sure I'm going to get me a pit bull. So if you can increase a dog's stamina and endurance, endurance is not just a physical thing, it's also a mental thing. So if you can increase it, why can't you make a person more game if you can increase their mental endurance? Why can't you do that? That's the part that that's what I'm getting confused on. Break
Well,
that.
you can. So you said if you can't make a dog more game, is that what you said?
Yeah, so why can't you increase, like prey drive? You can increase it. Why can't you increase a dog's gameness through conditioning and practicing? Because as humans, we have the ability to alter things on a different level, psychologically, spiritually. So why can't we make a dog more game? That's the question I'm getting confused on. Like, why not?
All right. Hold on just a second.
Make sure y'all smash the thumbs up, guys. I'm Jalik the student, Jaguar the band dog. We gonna get this popping. I want to have my man 313 on here. 313
Right.
Scary Cats. I want to have him on here because he asks great questions. He's a decoy trainer representing Detroit. What up, though? I want to definitely have you on one day. I like, we agree to disagree, but I like him, man. Yeah.
All right. So here's why you can't make a dog more game. Let's say you can make them look more game, but that's not game. So what I mean by that is, let's say you give performance enhancing drugs. You give a dog painkillers.
Yeah.
If you give the dog painkillers, it's not feeling the pain. You didn't make the dog more game. You just made it less stressed.
But okay. So
it looks like it's more game, and he's working harder, and he's taking more punishment, but he's not feeling the stress. So you can't say, well, he quit. That last dog quit for pain. It was the same dog. Last time he quit because it hurt. This time he's not quitting because it doesn't hurt. You didn't make him more game. You gave him a painkiller. That doesn't make him more game. It just makes him look more game.
So if a dog quit, see the thing is kind of crazy. Like, so if a dog does give their absolute 100% best and they're exhausted and they say, oh, this dog is a cur, but that same dog still will be game and still do the best they can, also can say, for instance, that same dog can protect your family. I might start to consider like, okay, this dog is better than your dog that obviously just wins in the box, but he just let somebody come in and run right up in your crib. So that's the part that is gets with me. Like, what's the standard? Like, where is this going? Because that's why I shout out to you, Lee, for even doing the pit bulls for protection work. Like, what's going on with that? Like, what value are you doing? Like, what's the value? I'm trying to think of what are you guys thinking? Like, am I wrong for thinking that, Lee?
No, you're not wrong for that. And I want to remind me to come. I'm going to answer your question, but I also want to come back to later about, I need to quantify, can you make a dog more game? I was talking about physically, you can't make it more game, but you can make it more game mentally. And I'll come back to the mental aspect later. Yeah. So there's a difference between physically game and mentally game. So when you give them a painkiller, you didn't make them more mentally game. You literally took away a physical stimulus. But we'll come back to the mental side in a minute. But as far as doing protection work, if you only think that the pit bull's job is in the box, and that's all you're going to do is in the box, you're going to throw away your responsibility to have children and raise those children. You're going to throw away all of the assets that you have so you can be in a box. Your pit bulls are going to be killed, and you're going to end up in a box. That's not very intelligent. So if you don't want to end up in a jail cell, a box, and you want your pit bulls to live, then I suggest you start thinking about, how can I work these dogs in a legal, moral, and ethical way? And if you're intelligent enough to do it, because you have both experience and book smarts and a willingness to grow, then you can find other venues where you can preserve the greatest breed that has ever existed in a pure form. And that's the American Pit Bull Terrier. This is the only dog that can pull a sled like a husky, pull a sled like a Malamute, that can run, not like a greyhound, but pit bulls were added to like whippet blood and stuff like that to improve certain attributes. That they were used with herders. The Dutch Shepherd has Pitbull and Great Dane added to it. It's not just a Malinois. The Pitbull is like the only breed that they cross with many other breeds to make those other breeds better because it's healthy, athletic, determined. It's it's a great breed. And why is it a great breed? That's because they went through the ultimate test. There's no test that's harder than combat. So what we should do if we want to preserve the pit bull is find other legal venues that are similar in combat aspects. We're not going to ever have the box in my life because I'm not willing to lose all my assets. I have children and family that I love, and it's my job as a man to provide for my family. I'm not going to be involved in the box. I'm not going to risk. Dude, we had somebody get arrested because of some nonsense on Facebook. No evidence that he ever did anything illegal, but selling dogs to people that did stuff that was illegal, supposedly. Now, it was just allegation. What do they call it when you don't have evidence? Alleged. He was allegedly selling pit bulls for fighting because he was selling dogs on Facebook. He went to jail. So I'm not even going to have a conversation with a person like that. You can call me a cur if you want to. I call myself a responsible father that loves the pit bull and is going to work the pit bull in a legal and moral and ethical way, such as hog hunting or protection work. If you don't like it, I don't care. Who's going to be here in 20 years? If you're out there promoting illegal content because you're going to talk about on a YouTube video or a Facebook page, you're going to talk about content that is illegal, you're not going to last very long. Okay, they're gonna come after you for posting stupid stuff online that you shouldn't even be doing in the first place. People need to wake up. It's time. It would be different if we didn't have the laws that we have. But with the laws that then you could still do these things if you wanted to. But some of us don't agree with it. However, whether you agree with it or not, dude, people are losing their lives. And the dogs are losing their lives because they're living in yesterday. And, the day of the pit bull is gone unless you change. Now, you can call it a different breed because you're no longer breeding in the box. You can call it something else. Guess what? We call our dogs, our crossbred dogs, American Sentinels. But we still have the pit bulls in its pure form because it brings so much to the table. All right?
Let me ask you this.
Real quick, I think the dog should be preserved. But I think it can only be preserved when we can find other ways to test it. Okay? It's not going to be the same test, but it can still be a good test.
I got a question for you, Lee. We know your American Sentinel, the reason behind the pit bulls is your favorite. You wanted something that was bigger, that can be like the pit bull, but bigger and control man or beast. Okay. With Bam Bam looking like your favorite pit bull, it looked like he might be taking Frankie Bump place. It looked like he's taking Frankie Bump place. Okay, let me ask you this.
Great.
If Bam Bam was 75 pounds and there was a way for you to do breeding where your pit bulls was consistently 75 pounds, would you eliminate the American Sentinel program? Would you just get rid of it? If your dogs, all of them like consistently get like Bam Bam, your pit bull.
Yeah, well, and for those of you that don't know, Bam Bam is between 58 and 60 pounds. And by the time he's completely mature, because the dog ain't even 2 years old yet, he'll probably be 60 pounds. But he will do any type of work, whether it's hog work, whether it's man work, or if it was involved with another dog, he would be totally about that life. Accidents happen. Observations are made, and we can see those traits that in the dog and know that he's absolutely about that life. But the problem, and it's unfortunate because he's so freaking hot, and I hate it that it happened. He's already busted 3 of his canines. I mean, he wants to just annihilate everything in existence, but he's stable with the family. He's good with the family. Dude, the dog is 100% go. Now, if he was a house dog, you wouldn't have busted canines, right? But he lives in a kennel, and if you put him on a chain, he'd probably bust his teeth on a chain. I mean, everything is an object to. He loves you if you're family, and if you're not family, you're a foe. Whether it's a hog, a dog, a man, Doesn't matter. He's about that life.
So he
Great
would
dog.
be considered a
We
man
have to
biter.
see what he'll produce, huh?
He would be considered a man biter. A man
Well,
biter. I like the
yeah,
man.
but you have to ask: is he biting out of rank? Is he biting out of instability? The answer is no. He's not biting out of rank, and he's not biting out of instability. He's biting out of prey drive and the pleasure of combat. He enjoys combat.
Shout out to my man Mark B. He been leaving comments on there. He said true dogmen want to win. They're all familiar with sorrels and they've been very available, yet hardly anyone uses it. And those who try it usually breed it out or get rid of it altogether. Why? Good question, Mark.
Yeah,
B.
I don't think that's a valid statement at all because Bert Sorrell's his program was withered away when Joni got a bunch of them, and then Madison got some of them, and then Mickey Smith got some of them. I got some, and the program kind of split apart, and it's been basically 26 years. Yeah, I got a dog in 2004 that was bred in 2003, but he was when I went to his place in 2003 and 2004, he was already down to like 55 dogs or something, like 50 or 60 dogs. But let's look here and see a little bit about the accolades behind that program. I'm going to do another share screen. All right, can you share that screen there?
Yes.
All right, so this is Bert Sorrells, and here's a little history about Sorrells' dogs. So Bert Sorrells, rest in peace, he passed away in 2018. But when I was there in 2004 and 2003, his back was out. He was having a lot of back problems. So when those back problems began, I don't know. And Madison Parker went overseas. Madison Parker is a Navy SEAL, and we actually verified that with Don Shipley. But I verified it because somebody else was concerned if he was legitimately a Navy SEAL, and he is legitimately a Navy SEAL. But I knew that he was telling the truth because I've seen a lot of photos that Madison has in his house with him with the crews and him overseas and him in Bud's training and whatnot. Well, Madison has had several overseas deployments, and despite his age, he was back over in Iraq after 2000. He was in his 50s when he was over there, maybe even his 60s, but I think it was his 50s. Yeah, it was his 50s. The last time he was deployed by the military. Well, when you're going overseas, you have to get rid of your dogs, right? You can't put, 30 dogs on your wife. You just can't do that and expect it to be the same when you get back. And then Bert Sorrells was also out of the dogs for a while. And then these dogs are actually still being active in Mexico. There's some people that are working these dogs over in Mexico. So to say that nobody's working the dogs is not true, but let's look at its history. There's some of the legendary dogs. I don't even have Golden King's Champion Silver on here. Yeah, I do. So right here, Golden King's Champion Silver. Find another dog in history. You won't do it. Golden King's Champion Silver was 100% pure Sorrells dog, and he's the only dog ever in history to defeat 3 grand champions and a champion.
Wow.
For those of you that don't know, 3 grand champions, a grand champion is a 5-time winner, and a champion is a 4-time winner. I mean, a 3-time winner.
Wow.
So you have 3 5-time winners and 1 3-time winner. That's 3 times 5 is 15, and then plus 3 more, that's 18 wins basically between those dogs. Golden King's Champion Silver beat all 4 of those dogs. There's no other dog in history that has ever done that. And he was 100% Sorrells dog. And one time when he was competing, he actually had 4 wins and he had 1 loss. And when the camp Golden Kings went out and they had his loss, they didn't recognize that the dog was ill until after the event was taking place. And he's like, man, my dog's not performing right. Because the dog was so game and determination. A lot of times wounded animals try to hide their illness. They don't want to show it because they're so driven. Do what?
I said facts, yeah.
Yeah, they want to hide their illness. When they get stressed, it starts to show up. And Golden King saw that Silver was not doing well against this one dog. And so he picked up his dog and said, we're going to come back. You can have the win today, but we're going to come back and vindicate our dog because I know my dog's better than he is today. Something must be going on with him. And a lot of times people will say, oh, he's just lying. He's just fronting. He's just admitting that he's lost. But he said, no, I'm going to come back and I'm going to get you. Well, when Silver was healthy and he wanted to bring him back, the dog that had beat him had gotten killed by a dog named Black Mup. And so Golden King said, well, I can't vindicate against the dog that we picked up against. But what we're going to do is we're going to go against the dog that killed that dog. We're going to go against Black Mup because he should be even better than the dog that we picked up against. And Golden King's champion Silver beat Black Mup.
Wow.
So he is a dog that has truly accomplished what no other pit bull has accomplished. And then also look at the accolades. You have Sorrel's Bull, ROM, Hard Eyes, ROM, John Testament. There was also a Joe Testament.
So you saying people are using more sorrels than what they're claiming? It's just that guy's perception, or is it some truth to that?
Well, there's some truth that some of it died out because Madison Parker and Bert Sorrells, the two main yards that kept the programs going, both downsized at the same time because Madison had to go overseas and Bert Sorrells, his back was out. When I was there, I fed his dogs for him, and he had 50 or 60 dogs because his back was messed up. So then you have Red Jerry, Raisin. I don't know about this John Testament. I'll have to verify that because I know there's a Joe Testament, and I think that's probably supposed to say Joe Testament. Well, it did it twice. What the heck? So, yeah, here's Joe Testament. So I guess there was a John Testament and a Joe Testament. I don't know anything about John Testament. I'll have to ask Madison about John Testament. Maybe that was an offspring of Joe Testament or something. Then you had Red Jerry, Raisin, Shoshone, Sweeney Todd, Hard Eyes, POR, Poor Boy. Everybody, if you know Sorrells, you've heard of Poor Boy, Roadblock, Shoshone, John Testament again, Golden King's champion, Silver. That was the only dog to defeat 3 grand champions and a champion. All of these dogs were champions. Then you have 2-time winners, 1-time winners, 1-time game losers. All right. This one dog that lost went 4 hours in competition. 4 hours. That's crazy.
We call them pedigree freaks, right? They be like, my dog is great grandson with something silver. How do you address those pedigree freaks that only know how to go? They only know how to read a pedigree, but they don't know how to read a dog, and they don't know how to build their program because they such pedigree freaks. Address those, Lee.
Yeah, that's probably also a problem. There's a lot of people that probably got Sorrells dogs and they wanted to breed Sorrells dogs and they wanted to keep pure pedigrees, but they bred the wrong ones and maybe they didn't represent the blood. Because just because you have something that has that name in it doesn't mean you're breeding to the same standard as the original person. So even though Bert Sorrells may have had a ton of accomplishments, if you're breeding Sorrells dogs but you're selecting differently and not as well, then you're going to lose those traits that made those dogs great. I'll tell you flat out, I don't have the same breeding standard that Bert Sorrells does. Because here's why. Because I'm looking for legal venues like protection work or hog hunting, I don't want a dog that's scared and nervous, right? So some Sorrells dogs are really great in a box and maybe have a ton of great traits, but maybe they're nervous. Well, that doesn't work well when you're trying to ride a four-wheeler through the woods to catch a hog, or in the dog's on the four-wheeler, or if you're going to do protection work and you have to go to a strange environment and they're going to have hula hoops and leaf blowers and stuff like that to evaluate your dog's dog and whatnot.
We probably gonna have to have a part 2 for this one. This gets people heated on here. Anything else you wanted to say to the people? I appreciate y'all joining us. You can watch this on my channel and Lee's channel simultaneously. Anything else that you feel like you haven't gotten to say?
Sure. So there's 2 more things. One, I want to talk.
Lee, make sure you tell us about your pedigrees, because Lee don't like the market. He got some fire pedigrees. I'm telling y'all, like, go ahead and talk about that too, Lee. What's your Pitbull lineup you got coming out? Yeah.
Sure. Well, when I said I didn't breed exactly the same as Bert, remember, I'm looking for a dog that has all the great attributes of a pit bull, but at the same time, I'm looking for, and I'm also adding, I want the intelligent ones and I want the ones that are not nervous. And there is a ton. I don't like to be a braggart, but if you want to give truth, this is not to brag about me. This is to help somebody else. Get an education and get experience. Learn how to read a dog. You're not going to be able to select the right individuals if you don't see what's happening in front of you. There's some people that if they break into someone's house and they get shot, they blame the homeowner instead of realizing, I mean, they think that their rights exist in somebody else's home instead of actually reversing that and say, well, if I broke into their house, would you shoot me? And they'd be like, yeah, you can't break it. So you think your rights exist in your house and your rights exist in their house. You're not being objective here. So we need to be able to see truth. And if you can't see truth, there's nothing I can do for you. But if you're willing to see truth, then you know that education matters and experience matters. You need to go learn how to read behavior. You need to learn how to read the signs of heat exhaustion. You need to know how to read the signs of intelligence. Now, when it comes to intelligence, when I told you earlier that gameness cannot really be changed genetically, you're not going to change the physical neurons for sensing pain unless you give like a drug, like a painkiller. But that's not allowed, right? And I don't want to do that because if I'm in a protective situation, I don't know when the intruder is going to come in, right? So my dog has to be durable and tough and resistant to pain all the time. I'm not going to give a drug. I want to see what the dog's natural ability is. But you can change the dog's, gameness mentally. And this is where some people will dominate a pup too much and they lower the dog's gameness because they always submitted that dog and always submitted that dog and always submitted that dog. And so the dog has learned I'm never allowed to express my will. Also, there's an experiment, and I told you about this experiment before. So this is called the rat hope experiment. Okay. Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
All right. So I just typed in what I wanted to experiment with mice. I thought it was mice, but it must have been rats. Picking them up to swim before they drown. So in this experiment, this guy noticed that if he put mice or rats in a deep jar of water and they could not escape, they would swim for an average of 15 minutes before stopping from exhaustion and they would drown. They didn't put that here. All right, so notice it's a PETA. They're going to talk about it. Really, I think it was like 6 to 8 minutes in most cases, and they would drown. Well, what they did is they repeated the experiment, but the second time that they did it, right when they were drowning and they were going under and they could tell that the mouse was going to drown or rat was going to drown, the researcher would reach in there, pick them up after they'd gone underwater, pick them up, pull them out, dry them off, let them rest, let them recover, and then put them back in. And then they swam for 60 hours, 2.5 days.
Wow.
What was the difference? The difference was hope. When you can school a dog or train a dog properly, you're going to add the confidence of I can win. I just have to hold on for another minute. Another minute.
I'm glad you said that because our mind is more powerful than our body. So if you can give a dog more hope and more confidence, you can technically alternate how far determination they become.
Right. And
just
you know who's going to learn
spirit. You can be too hard on the dog and break their spirit and then and suppress them. So it works both ways.
Right. And so you know who's going to find out about that experiment that was done? The person that's willing to read a book is going to find out about that. And it's going to make them a better dog man. because education and experience both matters. But if you refuse to read a book, you'll never learn about that experiment unless somebody like me comes along and shares it, right? But where did I learn it? I learned it from a book. And so we learned that developing an animal properly can help it reach its full potential. Mike Tyson did great when he was under the tutelage of what's the guy's name?
Customato.
Customato.
Yeah.
When he was under Customato tutelage and teaching and mentorship, he went from like a 12-year-old boy to a 20-year-old or 19-year-old. How old was he when he won the world championship?
20. Yeah, I think it was 20.
Yeah, he took him to and then after Customato died and he had different tutelage, he was never great again. I mean, he was great, don't get me wrong. He was still a knockout punisher, but he changed his style. He became he lost control.
Lee, that's your boy. That's your boy, Mike Tyson. You can't make excuses for Tyson. He was a rank curve, man. He was a rank curve. My two favorite boxers of all time were George Foreman and Evander Holyfield. Right, yeah. They was gay, yeah. They was gay. They different than Tyson, but they different. Lee, it looks like we're gonna have to do a part 2. You mind closing us out and get anything off your chest? We gonna have a part 2, guys. It's a lot of people is here. A lot of y'all is understanding and think outside the box metaphor, and that's what we're gonna do. This is how we're gonna evolve. I'm sorry, guys. This is how we gotta do. If you don't want to think outside the box, well, just stay in your little box. You and your friends go.
Share this guy's comment real quick about the Amstaff. He said, my point, or I'll just read it. It says, my point is you can't breed training. You can breed a solid dog. So what traits and use of the American Pitbull Terrier that is not an Amstaff for the purpose outside of the box? You can use the American Pitbull Terrier in many things. Absolutely. My disagreement is actually an agreement. And what I mean by that is the Amstaff is not the Pitbull. The Amstaff is bred for a show. The Pitbull is bred to go. So if you're going to make the Pitbull in a different venue, it's not going to be confirmation. It's not going to be show. It has to be something that tests the dog's go. So we're on the same page. He just believes the go is in the box. And my thoughts are, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to find something legal, like hog hunting or protection work. Something that I'm going to
status. He mentioned a good point. Shout out to 313. I want to definitely have you on there. I'm gonna call you too. I just met him yesterday on Instagram. So he said it should be a ROM status or POR status, whatever it's called, for hog hunting. Do you think that's a good idea for hog hunting?
It's too many variables. The problem with the advantage, dogfighting has some advantages from an objective standpoint. And you know, the PETA people and the animal rights activists, they're going to hear me say something like this, and they're going to think, oh, he's supporting it. No, I'm not. I'm not supporting it. I'm just saying point blank. From an objective standpoint, it's pound for pound. You're going into an equal opponent basically on body weight. With hogs, you don't know what you're going into. You might be going into a 40-pound hog or a 400-pound hog or anything in between. You might be a 200-pound hog. You might have a 200-pound hog that's never been in a fight in its life. And you might have a 200-pound hog that's been caught 3 times and killed opponents and learn how to succeed. So all of these things are going to come into factor. And so for that reason alone, it's going to be pretty much impossible to title a dog, because one person gets titled on an easy hog and another person got titled on a tough hog. Or maybe one person failed the tough hog and another person won on an easy hog. Not the same, y'all. It's not the same. So in that aspect, the dog venue has a greater level of objectivity. I don't like the sport of weight pulling. I think it's kind of boring, but it does have a couple of good things. The weight is objective. It doesn't matter if it's 1,000 pounds of cotton or 1,000 pounds of lead. 1,000 pounds is 1,000 pounds unless you're throwing it at somebody. Then it's, you know, obviously I'd rather get hit by 1,000 pounds of cotton than 1,000 pounds of lead, but that's density, not weight. And so, you know, the weight is the weight. So that's good. And also the time. If 2 dogs pull the same weight, the one that pulled it faster wins. Time is time. It's objective. So when you're going to use titles, you need objective measures. And hog hunting is not objective. It's too many variables.
Yeah. And one final thing, Lee, because Lee don't like to market his business. A lot of people don't even know he got pit bulls. Tell us about your upcoming breedings, and also what's the best way to contact you, to you know, because Lee, I'm telling y'all guys, Lee, I'm not just hyping him up. Lee got that Chick-fil-A customer service. A lot of people don't got it. I got a saying: if your customer service is trash, you're not getting my cash. If your customer service is trash, you're not getting my cash. Go ahead, Lee. Close us out.
Yeah, well, we do offer a really good customer service, and we stand behind our dogs unless a person lies to me. And by lying to me, I'm not talking about I think you lied to me. No, I'm talking about I have hard evidence that shows that you lied to me. If you lied to me, then I can't trust anything you say. And if I can't trust anything you say, then now I don't know why the dog broke its leg. Did you get mad and kick the dog and you don't want to tell me that? Or did the dog, was it chasing a rabbit and stepped in on a pallet and the leg went through the pallet and it broke its leg? That's not my fault, y'all. I can't do a health guarantee because there's an injury. And if anybody lies to me, our policy is null and void. Now, that's only happened one time. In 26 years, I've only had one person that I caught lying to me. The other times, yeah, we stand behind our dogs and we guarantee their health. I can't guarantee that they are going to win, but if I trust you, by win, I'm talking about doing protection work or catch a hog. But if I trust not only your honesty, but also trust your competence, meaning you have a history of producing dogs that can do protection work, you have a history of training dogs that are successful in protection work or hog catch, you've got, several videos of other dogs that you've trained and they've done well, and you get a dog from us and it doesn't do so well, then we'll replace it, because then we'll guarantee its performance as well. But health guarantee requires you to not lie to me, and performance guarantee requires you to not lie to me and to also be competent in your craft. If you're an incompetent person and you just don't know how to ever work a dog, there's not a whole lot I can do for you except for talk to you on the phone and try to help you the best that I can. And I don't do well with trolls. I mean, you're more patient with trolls than me.
Yeah, I'm real patient with trolls. Yeah, I use the law of non-resistance on them and they just disappear. I don't believe. Your pit bull breedings. Before we get out of here, Lee, you gotta talk about what you got. We talking about pit bulls. What pit bulls you got? What you got, yeah. Lee? What breedings you got?
And you asked me earlier if I would even breed the Sentinels if the pit bulls were 75 pounds, and I would say if the pit bulls were 70 to 95 pounds and could do protection work, then no, I wouldn't bother with the Sentinel program. But they're not going to be 70 to 95 pounds. The biggest pit bull I've ever seen in my life was 78 pounds, which was a pure pit bull. Most people would say that was a crossbred dog. He wasn't. I know he wasn't. He was a pure pit bull. But that was an anomaly, and I've only seen one of them, maybe two of them in my life, and I've been looking hard and long, 26 years, looking very hard, and I've only seen two. And one of those, actually, I bred to both of them. One of them never had any offspring. That was Pokey. And then the other one was Chief. I bred to him, but he never produced another pit bull that size. So, and we also had Snaps, which was a female that was over 70. So that's an equivalent dog because it was a female, and she did produce that size, but we didn't. But she only did it once, and that was with Chief. And so it's going to be really, really hard. And then you're also changing the temperament a little bit because you're trying to add a little bit of defense and man work. And while there are pit bulls that do man work, they're not really bred for that. If they have it, it's fine as long as it's a stable dog. And all of our pit bulls are going to be very high drive dogs, very athletic. And out of respect for Jalik, and I told him I was going to send him a video of a quick, short, current yard tour of our pit bulls. I went out to do that this morning, and I actually did it this morning, but I'm going to do it over because we actually had a dog that we took to the vet to get an ear crop, and it came home with a cough. And so that cough is kind of going through our kennel right now. There's nothing significant. It's not a big deal. but it takes like a couple of days. So one dog will have it for 2 days and then the cough goes away. But
Okay.
then it goes away. You got another dog that's coughing, and then that one gets better, and then another dog's coughing. So I'm just going to wait till that runs its cycle and they're done coughing. I guess that might be kennel cough. In 26 years, we've never had to deal with that before. But I talked to my vet about it, and he's like, it'll go away in a couple of days. Don't worry about it. But it's still annoying because you hear them hacking. It's kind of like COVID for people or for dogs or whatever, I guess. But they recover quickly. Yeah, we have a very heavy amount of sorrels.
Bam Bam and Banshee. What you got? What you got? If I was
I'll name them.
Yeah.
We have Scarlet and Boomer. Those two dogs are off of Frankie Bomp bred to Rosebud. Frankie Bomp was a 3/4 sorrels. Rosebud was 100% sorrels. So that means that Boomer and Scarlet are both 7/8, which is 87.5% sorrels. Then we have next we have Jackknife and Pumpkin. Jackknife and Pumpkin are both 100% sorrels. You want me to show the dogs while we're talking?
Yeah, and I want you to tell them what breeding you got coming up. Yeah, go ahead. You mind doing it? I gotta take my puppy out to use it. Go ahead and run it. I just gotta take her out to use the bathroom.
Yeah, I gotta share screen, so I'm gonna need your approval to share the screen.
Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, I just gotta take her out. There you go.
All right. So this is Bam Bam. Bam Bam. Well, let me back up a minute. So we're gonna come back to Bam Bam in just a second. So this is Boomer, and Boomer is the sire of Bam Bam. Boomer was sired by a dog named Frankie Bomb. So we're gonna look at his pedigree here for just a second. Whoops. Let me do this. I got a photos thing here. I got to log in. Well, and if we look at his sire, this is Frankie Bomp. Frankie Bomp is a dog that I got from Madison Parker. Let me make sure this is working. Yep. All right, good. So Frankie Bomp is a dog that I got from Madison Parker, and he's 3/4 sorrels. If you go to Chilo, who's in the pedigree a number of times up here, Chilo, this is a Lara's Chilo is a dog that is heavy on the sorrels dogs. You can go back here and you go back further and you'll see more sorrels than that. And then there's some other, he was bred to a female named Parker's Misfit. Well, Parker's Misfit is a pure sorrels dog, as you can see down here. So because of the Chilo influence and some other sorrels dogs coming in through Big Daddy, because Big Daddy was only about half sorrels, he was about half some other stuff. He's got some Boudreaux in him and whatnot. But Misfit was 100% sorrels, which makes Frankie Bomp a 3/4 sorrels dog. He is the sire to Boomer. Now, Boomer, like I said, sired by Frankie Bomp, his mother was Rosebud. Rosebud is another 100% sorrels. So Boomer is 7/8. He's got a 1/8 out, all right, basically. That is what made Boomer. Now, Boomer has a sister named Scarlet. If I click over here to this tab and click on siblings, we're going to see Robinson's Scarlet. Oh, here she is at the bottom. All right, and we're going to click on photos so you can see what Scarlet looks like. This is Scarlet. Okay, beautiful animal, very high drive. Boomer and Scarlet both represent the historical aspects of the American Pitbull Terrier. They would absolutely, they seek and look forward towards combative tasks. Okay, so I have to manage them very well. So again, the same pedigree, Frankie Bomp and Rosebud, because they are full siblings. Boomer and Scarlet. Next, we have, and you notice that I show the pedigrees on my website. I show their hips. We evaluate their hips because this is going to be important in recovery. So if you exercise a dog, you want a dog that's going to recover well. There's Frankie Bomp, the sire. We have semen collected from him, but he's passed away. But I do have semen on storage from him that we can use again in the future. We have enough for 5 breedings. I got him from Madison Parker. That's Madison Parker. Okay. This is Jackknife. Jackknife is a 100% sorrels dog. Let me show you his pedigree.
Jackknife, you want to tell him? So Lee, tell him about your confirmation experience with Jackknife, Lee.
Yeah, so I'm not a big fan of confirmation, and Jalik knows this, but there's no. I've oftentimes hear people at the dog show say, if everything else was equal, the dog with the better confirmation wins. And this is why I agree with the individual that talked about the Amstaff. The Amstaff is bred to look like it has the better confirmation, and it may have the better confirmation, but it's not going to win because everything else is not equal. Like I said, the Pitbull's bred to go while the Amstaff is bred to show. And so while the show dog looks like it has the right standard, that standard is being assessed by a person that a lot of times doesn't even know anything about a working dog. They wear flip-flops and flowered dresses and walk around in circles on an AstroTurf. You know, it's not the same as putting the dog in the woods. And so, you know, but that said, Jackknife is a super high drive dog, tons of confidence and tons of go. But we took him to an ADBA dog show, and he did get first place. So yeah, he's got good confirmation, but he also conditions well. I mean, just look at his phenotype. He's built like a brick house, right? I mean, he's very well put together, very high drive. This is a dog that is not for an amateur. Okay, this is a very, very, very high drive dog that will absolutely get into trouble if you allow him to get into trouble. And when he's looking for trouble, you want to manage him in very deliberate and well-managed behavior. He's super affectionate, never has shown aggression towards me. But if I had, let's say, Frankie Bomp in front of him and they were trying to go at each other, and I would not let them get at each other, and then I swung my hand right in front of Jackknife, he's so amped up and fast to strike that he would probably tag somebody. So somebody might say, well, that's a man biter, blah, blah, blah. He's not doing it out of dominance. He's not doing it out of rank. He's not doing it to be mean. He just can't control his energy. He's a lot like Bolio in that aspect. So you need to handle him properly, or he's a tornado on wheels. You know what I'm saying? And so you have to manage him properly. He's not for a rookie. There's Jackknife's hips, excellent hips again. And there's his stats. I didn't show you his pedigree, so let's look at his pedigree. Jackknife is out of Hardcore and Screamer. I really liked Hardcore a lot. Screamer was a nice dog. She had one fault. I'm one of these few people that will tell you a dog's faults. Most people won't tell you their faults. She would snort a little bit when she was relaxed, which was a concern to me about a soft palate. I don't like a soft palate because a dog with a soft palate will sometimes be a sign of a dog that can run hot or have respiratory issues if in hard work or hot weather. Now, I never saw her have problems with that, but it's something that a person that can read a dog should be aware of. Oops, I'm not showing you the right tab. My bad. Julie, you gotta let me know if I'm not showing the right tab. So this is Screamer. Screamer was the dog that I was talking about that would snort when she was just like sleeping or something. You'd hear
okay.
You know, like some dogs will snore.
Yeah.
Or if she was just walking around, sometimes she might have that little
right,
which is a soft palate is what it is. And so dogs with soft palate a lot of times will have a short muzzle and they're prone to overheating. So again, never saw a problem with it, but it's something to be aware of, because if you can read a dog, then you know how to condition that dog or test that dog properly to get the best you can out of it. Now, when I was aware of that, I was looking for dogs that displayed a lack of, I wanted to make sure I avoided that trait, right? As long as we kept all the desirable traits. She was very powerful, very well built in other aspects. And then Hardcore was just all go. And so I wanted a dog that was all go, and I wanted to focus on Hardcore. Now, the guy that owned Screamer wanted to breed her back to Jackknife because he's a great pup, or a great offspring as an adult. And I let him do it, and we worked something out, and I was offered pups off of that, and those pups turned out to be great, but I didn't keep anything because I was more interested in focusing on the Hardcore side than the Screamer side. That's just a fact. Now I kept his sister as well, not just her. I also kept his sister Pumpkin. So this is his sister, same pedigree, hardcore screamer, and she is another phenomenal 100% Sorrels dog. Just super heavy muscle. Very, both of those dogs are just really stacked on their muscles. Now let's go back to this other screen. Stop sharing that one. Now I'm breeding Jackknife right now. I just bred him to a bitch named Spaz. So you wanted to see the breedings that we're going to do. We're going to open this tab here and we're going to click on the offspring and you'll see Spaz right here, Jackknife and Spaz.
So you breeding Jack? Okay.
So this is Jackknife and then this is Spaz.
Okay.
This breeding right here is 31/32 Sorrels. So Jackknife is pure Sorrels and Pumpkin is pure Sorrels. Pumpkin is the mother of Spaz. So this is going to double up on the screamer, but it's also going to double up on the hardcore. All right. So you see the hardcore right there. Let me reduce the size.
Uncle to niece breeding. Uncle to niece. Okay.
Yeah. This is an uncle niece breeding. We're breeding Jackknife to Spaz. And what we have here is we have the Frankie Bomp influence and the Rosebud influence coming into Boomer. Boomer has been a great producer. He is the sire of Bam Bam, who you heard Jalik talk about earlier as being one of my favorites. All right. And then I said hardcore. He's off of Grunt, Runt, and Echo. He just calls him Echo. All right. Next. Let's see here. Share this tab instead. Now we're going to go up and look at Bam Bam. Bam Bam is a handful. What a great dog. You sell a dog like this to 10 people, and half of them are going to call you up and say, can I send this dog back to you because he's crazy. All right. This dog is all go, 100%. I love him. I would absolutely love him. He's exactly what I like to see in a dog. He is not for show. He is 100% for go.
How much you want from him, Lee? You want one of those new F-150s? You want one of those new F-150s for him?
No, I'm a Toyota guy, but no. And but no, I'm not getting rid of him. I like him a lot. We're just going to have to see how well he can produce because he's already really displaying all the traits that I expect to see. Now he is double bred on Frankie Bomp. So you see Frankie Bomp's coming into the sire, Boomer, and Frankie Bomp's also coming into the damn Miss Parker. This dog here has less sorrels than some of my dogs, but he has still a heavy amount because Boomer's 7/8 right there. So you got Frankie Bomp who's 3/4 and Rosebud who's 100%. And then Miss Bandit is off of Frankie Bomp who's 3/4. But Sadie is only about 50%. Okay. She's only about 50%. So that's going to put this dog here at 5/8 and this dog here is 7/8, which puts him at 3/4. He's about 3/4 sorrels. Okay. So not as much sorrels in him as some of our dogs, but still a high percentage. So he's got a quarter
so
out.
You done him the Banshee, right?
I did breed him to Banshee, and we also bred him to Spaz once before, and it worked really, really good.
Okay.
So I was going to click on his to show you his sister, Bonnie Parker. For those of you that don't know who Bonnie Parker is, you ever heard of Bonnie and Clyde?
Yeah.
So Bonnie Parker is named after Bonnie and Clyde. So that's Bonnie Parker. She is Bam Bam's sister, and I wanted to go off the name Parker because she is Bam Bam and Bonnie Parker have more Madison Parker influence than really a typical Sorrels dog. So a lot of my pure Sorrels dogs are coming from Bert Sorrels' yard through Mickey Smith and the stuff that Madison did a long time ago. But Bonnie Parker and Bam Bam are more closely related to what Madison Parker was doing, around 2020 and 2015, I should say, because Frankie Bomp was born in 2015. And then also Sadie was probably born, I'm going to guess, she's probably born around 2019 or something like that. So this is a Madison Parker dog, and then this is a Madison Parker dog. So because of that, I call this a Madison, Bonnie Parker, because you got Madison Parker here, then you got Madison Parker again here, and then you got Madison Parker again here. Now, how is this different from what Madison has got on his yard? Madison's got some great dogs, but I like dogs with a little more size. So Frankie Bomp was the biggest dog that Madison had, and I got that dog from him. And Sadie was the biggest female that he had, so we got her for breeding. And why were they big? Well, they were big because they were off of the dog Big Daddy, who was a very big dog. Now you might say, but Sadie's not off of Big Daddy. You're right, she's not. But her sire, Slippin' Jimmy, right here, is off of Big Daddy. So there's Big Daddy again. So this breeding is, these Bam Bam and Miss Parker are 3 times Big Daddy. Okay, so I wanted a big dog, but I don't just want a big dog. They got to have the go also. And they have it. They are definitely about that life. Misfit is a really good dog that's worth talking about. And she was off of a dog named Cupcake, which is one of the top producers of all time. She's up there tied for like number 3 position producing bitch. So she's a great, there you go again. When people say the Sorrells line's not producing, it's not only still producing, it's still producing to this day, because Cupcake was just, like that was like in 2010, 2010, 2008. That's not that long ago as far as pit bulls go. Most people are talking about pit bulls from the 50s and 60s and 70s as far as the great dogs. This dog was in 2010, and she's tied for the top 3 producing bitch of all time. Really, really well-bred dog. So if you can move that stuff up close, that's definitely going to help a person's program.
So you got that right there. So the best way for them to reach you is to call you or text you or email you. Which one you prefer?
I prefer email, because people will call you and they want to tell you about everything they have, and I'm trying to work and get things done. And if you're serious, then I'll be glad to hear what you have. But if you're not,
your email
serious,
is American.
I can filter it with email. I'm trying to get work done, and some people will call you at 2:00 in the morning, so and whatnot. Now this is Banshee. Banshee is the lowest percentage of Sorrells of all my dogs. She's only going to be 3/8 Sorrells, so she's less than 50% Sorrells. She was sired by Frankie Bomp, but she has some Mayday and Crenshaw and Cottingham coming in her on the bottom side, and some Boudreaux stuff coming in from the Frankie Bomp stuff as well. So Frankie Bomp was basically, he's not a heavy Boudreaux dog. There's other stuff in there besides that. So Frankie Bomp is 3/4 Sorrells, and then out of the remaining 25%, there's going to be some Boudreaux and some other things as well. But it still goes back to the Carver Tudor cross, or Tudor Carver cross that's behind the Sorrells dogs, and probably the Corvino as well. But anyway, that's Banshee. You can see she's a well-conditioned animal. When we went to condition her, she conditioned really well, had excellent hips, good recovery, and stuff like that. She's only 3/8, which is 37.5% Sorrells. We used that line, and we had her and her sister Bacody to develop an outcross. Now, the reason why I wanted to develop a heavy Sorrells line of outcross is because to preserve this line for the next 20 years and not having to go to outside blood, because when you go to outside blood, you're going to bring in potential problems from other programs that did not do their work. So I wanted to be self-sufficient. So we produced Bacody and Banshee by outcrossing to a Mayday strain that we were keeping. And that's what made Banshee and Bacody. And then we bred Bacody, Banshee's sister, to Boomer. And so let's click on her pedigree real quick. And so now we're looking at Banshee, and we're going to click on siblings. And when I'm on siblings, I'm going to go to Bacody. So here's Bacody. This is Banshee's sister. And she was a great dog, but we took her and we bred her back to Boomer. So we're going to go to Offspring, and I'm going to find the breeding with Boomer. And we have right here a female that I kept named Riot. Riot She is named that for a good reason. So here we see we've got a lot of sorrels now coming into this dog, even though it was founded on a sorrels bred back to Mayday. When we did this combination and taking it back to sorrels again, now we have developed a line of sorrels dogs that has an outcross in it to preserve the dogs for the future, yet is still heavy sorrels because it's double bred on Frankie Bop, and it's got another line with pure sorrels with Rosebud. So this dog here is going to be basically 7/8 and 3/8, and all right. So 7/8 and 3/8 is 10/8. So this is 5/8 bred back to a 7/8. So this dog is now 3/4 sorrels again. You got a brindle dog here that's 3/4 sorrels, and she is about that life. Yesterday, with my tractor, I was moving a tree next to her chain spot. She jumped up from her chain spot and bit the tree and was hanging from it. And I'm like, what the heck? I had my grapple on my tractor. It can pick up a log sideways, and there was vines on that tree, and she jumped up and bit it and was hanging on it while I was driving the tractor. I had to stop because I didn't want to break her teeth when I got to the end of her chain spot. This dog is 100% go. This is what separates our program from other people. They're not looking at all the traits that they say they're preserving. They want to wish it into being instead of test it. So that's Riot. There's Miss Bandit. We already talked about Miss Bandit. Miss Bandit is off of Frankie Bop and Sadie. Then we got Bonnie Parker, who's Bam Bam's sister. Then we have Pumpkin, who's Jackknife's sister, 100% sorrels. Then we got Riot, the one we just talked about. Then Scarlet, that's Boomer's sister. And Spaz, who's Spaz is 15/16, which is about 93%. And we just bred her back to Jackknife, which is going to be about 97% sorrels. So, we're really maintaining it. I don't like to do a lot of commercial. I don't like to do a lot of soliciting, but you asked, and so there you go. I like to just put it on the website, and then people study the website.
No, I was saying, make sure y'all reach out to Lee. It's AmericanBandDog@gmail.com, right?
That's my That's my website is AmericanBandDog.com, but my email is AmericanSentinelK9@gmail.com.
Okay, AmericanSentinelK9@gmail.com.
But before you reach out to me, look at the website, do your homework, study what I have, and ask yourself, what do you have, what do you need, and what do you want? Do that homework before you call me, because I don't want to be on the phone while you're trying to figure out what you want to do. You need to figure out what you want, where you are, and what you need.
Make sure make sure you get permission from your wife or your spouse first too, before you call up there.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to hear I have people contact me all the time. It's crazy. People call me, hey, I wanted to reach out to you, touch base with you. I don't have the money right now, but probably in a year or two, I'd like to get a dog from you. And I'm curious what breedings you have planned in a year or two. I don't know what I'm going to breed in a year or two. I mean, I got to put the puppies on the ground, and I'm not breeding off a pedigree. If I was breeding off a pedigree, sure, I could tell you what pedigree I'm going to have in 2 years, but I'm not breeding off a pedigree. I'm breeding off of performance. I got to test these dogs and see how they do before I make a decision on who I'm going to breed to. And I could change one dog. You might think, well, yeah, but you have Boomer, you have Bam Bam, you have this dog and this dog. But I might change one dog that changes all of my breedings. So who knows what I'm going to do in a year or two. So call me when you're ready, and then I'll be glad to help you. And I don't mean this to sound ugly, but I'm not Tom Garner with a team of people that feed the dogs for me. I have to feed my own dogs. I have to take care of my own yard. And that is a plus, because that means I got my eyes on my dogs and I can see their strengths and weaknesses, and I don't have to rely on somebody telling me what they think. I know what they are because I see it.
Man, Lee, once again, I appreciate you so much, man. I appreciate all the people that's in that got their questions. Like I said, you welcome to ask hard questions on here. This ain't no soft channel. And reach out to Lee if you're serious about not just a pit bull. He got Sentinels as well. So make sure you reach out to him and keep it. Just tell him what you want, and then he'll make it happen for you.
I do appreciate the hard questions, but the hard questions are not trolling questions. The hard questions are things that are looking for truth. I need to look for truth. You need to look for truth. But, you know, we don't need to argue if 2 + 2 is 4.
Right. Yeah. Shout out to what was his name? Loverboy McCoy. Shout out to Loverboy McCoy, you know. Yeah, that's it for you guys. I'll be back on Sunday with Cedric Mayhem from Mayhem Kennels, a Pitbull breeder, dog man. He does PSA protection with his dogs, based in Chicago. So Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern, which is 6 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Pacific, and what's the other one called? Lee, Mountain Time, Utah. That's Mountain. Yeah, so 5 p.m. Mountain Time. And once again, we appreciate you guys for coming on. Hopefully, you guys learned something. Remember, guys, think outside the box. Think outside the box. Use your brain.
Thanks for having me on, brother.
Okay, appreciate you, Lee. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Yeah.